guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have Becca's Bookopoly round 33, also known as my Bookoplathon TBR. I'm really excited. If you guys are unfamiliar with Bookopoly at all, it's the TBR game that I play every single month where I roll the dice, move around the board, and for every prompt that I land on, I have to pick a book. But this month is a little bit different because it is the Bookoplathon month, which means that you guys get to play along with me with a brand new board exclusive for the readathon. If you don't know anything about Bookopoly and you also did not know that the readathon was happening, I will link the entire Bookopoly playlist down in my description box, and I will link the Bookoplathon announcement video up here in case you guys want to get involved. So for this month only, I'm going to be playing with the exclusive readathon board, and I have so many plans for September and I am so excited. But before we get into that, let us see how I did with last month's TBR. So I gotta say, I'm lagging a bit in August. It has not been a great reading month for me at all, but this was my TBR. So we had Golden Sun, which was a viewer recommendation. The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik was a community shelf card. Witch Shadow by Susan Dennard was a fantasy. Send Innocence by Josiah Bancroft was another fantasy. A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova was a fantasy romance, and we had one more fantasy on the TBR. It was a fantasy heavy month, and that was Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which I had an e-arc of. So out of these 6 books, I have DNF'd Little Thieves. I am halfway through Deal with the Elf King, and I have not started Send Innocence, but I have read the others. I'm just not having a great reading month, so I'm not going to be taking a punishment right now because at the point that I'm filming this, I still have almost a week of the month left. I feel like I'm filming this a bit early, so I still have plenty of time to start sending a sends. But if I don't, I'm not going to be adding a punishment to September's TBR because I want to give my all to this readathon. So if I do fail this TBR, I will add the punishment on in October to make up for not completing this TBR. But we'll see how it goes. So in the month of September, we have a lot going on. The first thing, the thing that I'm going to be dedicating myself the most to is of course my own readathon. So every single book I want to read in the month of September, I want to be from this board because I spent 4 days making it, you know, and I only use it once a year, so I really want to get the most out of it. So what this means throughout the month is that I'm going to be playing a little bit differently. You guys know that sometimes I will read like 1 or 2 books from a Bookopoly TBR in a week and then just pick up something random or something for some other reason. I want every single book to be generated by this board. So if it comes to that point in the month where I'm like 2 books into a vlog and I want to read something else but I don't want to pick anything off my Bookopoly TBR, I'm gonna have to roll and then find a book that fits the prompt. So I don't know if this is going to happen. It depends how many books are on my TBR. It depends how fast I read. It depends if everything goes to plan. But that is kind of what I want to do. Because I'm doing this, I have one book that I need to get on this TBR. So fingers crossed, the rolls are in my favour because I don't want to have to start rolling in the middle of a vlog to try and get a prompt to fit this book. But that one is Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb, which is the book that we're currently up to for Elderlingalong. And the live show for this, we are currently aiming for the 2nd Sunday in September. If it is not the 2nd Sunday, it will definitely be the 3rd. But this is chunky, so I really don't want to have to read this alongside my TBR. I really need to get this one in there. And of course, Bookoplathon is not the only readathon happening in September. We do of course also have the rebooted magical readathon created by G of Book Roast. This round is called Aurelium the Novice Path, and it has a map, and each point on the map is a prompt, and you only have to actually read 2 books to pass this readathon. Now historically, the magical readathon has been my favourite readathon ever, and I have gone all out. Because of Bookoplathon, I cannot go all out this time, but I'm definitely going to get my pass as a minimum. And after we've done all of the rolls and the Patreon pick and everything in this video, I'm going to be going through and slotting all of my Bookopoly books into the magical readathon where I can, and I'll run through that right at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that if you are interested. But I think that that is everything that I need to cover before we get started, so let the chaos commence with roll 1. Okay guys, I am unreasonably terrified of this board. I have not played with this board before. I don't know if this board is my friend or my foe. It's more likely to be my foe, but I will be starting on go with the rest of you. I am so scared. And first roll. It's a double and it's an 8. But oh my god, I am so happy to land on this space. So roll number 1 was a double, which, I mean, why would my own game ever be nice to me? So for this one, I landed on Gods, and straight off the bat, this is the one that I asked my patrons to vote on this month. The theme that I gave them within Gods was like Hades with a splash of Midas, so I'm real excited for this. But the first option they had was Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert. This is the second book in the Wicked Villain series, and the Wicked Villain series is a series of adult contemporary erotic Disney retellings where the love interest is the villain of the story and the main character is either the hero or the heroine of the story. So this one in particular is a throuple with Hades, Hercules and Megara. The second option that I gave them was A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair. This one is the sequel to A Touch of Darkness, which is once again a new adult fantasy romance, this time Hades and Persephone retelling. The third option was Promises and Pomegranates by Sav R. Miller. This one I literally know nothing about. I saw it on Goodreads like a week ago. The cover is stunning. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling, and I think it's fantasy romance. That's all I know. It's a brand new release. It was released at the beginning of August. And for the final option, I had to add in the splash of Midas because I ran out of Hades and Persephone retellings, which is something I actually hope I never do. And I gave them Glint by Raven Kennedy, which is the sequel to Guild, and this one is an adult fantasy romance King Midas retelling. So I was real nervous about this one because there was one that I definitely wanted to win, and my patrons pulled through for me because the winner and the book that I'm going to be reading in September is Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert. I really love Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. I think that Katie Robert's smut is top tier, like the best erotica I've ever read. They don't have a whole ton of plot, like it is mainly the romance and erotic theme, so if you're not into that, these books are probably not for you. And I believe that all of the books center on BDSM a little bit as well, but I'm really excited to continue with this series, so I'm glad that this is the first book on my TBR. Roll number 2. Fuck! No! 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 At least we got mood read. Roll number 2 was another double. So it's not going well, is it? We're up to 7 rolls already and I haven't even picked my second book. But we landed on mood read, so I'm not sure how to feel about this because Bookopoly like did me dirty but also did me a solid at the same time. But for the mood read space in the Bookoplathon guide, I have given 2 options. So like you can just pick whatever you want to add to your TBR, or you can just save it for a later date in the month when you want to pick something up that isn't on your TBR and use it to fulfill its prompt. So I think for this one actually I'm going to go for that second option just in case I need to stray away from my TBR a little bit. I have some themed reading vlogs that I maybe want to get through in September, and I feel like this would be handy for me to use for them if I can only get one of the books with a theme on my TBR or 2 and I need to get another book in. Roll number 3. Shit, no, this is not happening. This is not happening. Oh god, we have a chance card. Oh no, right. Morning Star. Okay, that's great, that's great. Roll number 3 was our third double. 3 doubles in 3 rolls. Has this ever happened before? I wish it hadn't happened now. But once again, the board screwed me over and also did me a solid because we landed on a chance card, and actually the only book that I want to read, like if you ask me what I want to read right now, there is only one answer, and that is what was on this chance card, and I am going to be reading Morning Star by Pierce Brown. I am so excited. So this is the 3rd book in the Red Rising saga. It is the final book in the core trilogy. There are 2 more books and another one coming, which are like a second trilogy, and Red Rising is an adult sci-fi series that has a lot of martial fantasy elements in it and also a dystopian uprising plot as well. So we are following a main character called Darrow, who is a red in this caste system where reds are right at the bottom and golds are right at the top, and there's 14 colours in total. Darrow and the rest of the reds live under the surface of Mars where they are mining for a valuable resource called helium-3. The reason that they think they're doing this is so that humanity can start to terraform the planets and everybody can escape the dying planet Earth. However, after Darrow's wife orchestrates her own capture and execution to make herself a martyr and spur Darrow into action, Darrow goes to the surface of the planet and realizes that the planets have been terraformed for quite some time and the Reds are essentially being kept in slavery. So Darrow then joins a rebellion and ends up infiltrating the Golds with the idea of tearing them apart from the inside. So Red Rising was slow. It's a dense world, there's a lot going on, and I only really got into it halfway through. Golden Sun is my favorite book of the year, maybe second favorite after Oathbringer, but it is definitely up there as one of my favorite books of the year. So the only book I want to read right now is Morningstar, and it is chunky. It's 518 pages, but this series is so dramatic. Like, the angst and drama in here is next level. It's kind of like Shakespearean drama with blood feuds and betrayals happening left, right and center. Everybody's just dropping dead and it is just wild, and I'm obsessed, I'm hooked, I'm invested, and thank you Bookoplathon gods for allowing me to put this on my TBR. Rule number 4. I'm dying over here. Finally, 9. Disability and mental health threat. So rule number 4, finally not a double, and for this one I landed on disability or mental health threat. So for this I'm going to be reading The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This one is an adult contemporary romance. It's kind of a standalone. It is a companion novel to Helen Huang's other books, but it is like a romance standalone. You can read it on its own. And this one is an adult contemporary romance that follows a young woman with Asperger's who wants to settle down and get married. However, she's really not good with people, so she hires a male escort to teach her about romance and love and how to be a good girlfriend. Steph recommended this to me. I've been wanting to build my contemporary romance collection, although I'm shooting myself in the foot because I only have 2 that I haven't read and I'm about to read one. But yeah, I want to read more contemporary romance and this fits the prompt perfectly. Rule number 5, which could have been my last roll but absolutely is not, is a 6. You know, normally I would be mad about this, but it actually works. For roll number 5, we landed on Big Book, which I mean is not ideal in most situations, but once again I feel like the Bookoplathon board was on my side in this case because I do need to get on my TBR. Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. So this one is the final book in the 3rd series in the realm of the Eldlings, and it is the end of the 2nd trilogy that continues Fitz's story, all very complicated. But the very first book in the realm of the Eldlings, Assassin's Apprentice, follows a young boy called Fitz, who is the bastard son of the king in waiting. So Fitz's maternal grandfather drops him off on the steps of the keep to be sent back to his father, and Fitz makes his way to the seat of the crown, only to find out that his father, upon hearing of his arrival, has abdicated and moved to the countryside. So from here no one really knows what to do with Fitz until he comes of an age where he attracts the attention of the king, who thinks Fitz would be the perfect assassin as he is both part of the nobility and also part of the common people. So you've come a long way from that with this series. This is set 15 years after the events of the 1st trilogy, where Fitz has been thrown back into all of the chaos of Bookkeep. There is also a lot going on with the magic of the world in here. There are 2 types of magic: the wit, which is the ability to communicate with animals, and the skill, which is the ability to communicate with other people. And there's a lot of politics going in within the factions of these magic wielders. I think this is going to make me cry because Robin Hobb intended this to be the last book in the realm of the Eldlings. Of course, now we know that there's another 7 books to go and another 3 that follow Fitz, but I do expect this to be incredibly emotional, especially with the way that it's been set up, and I'm a little bit scared because I already sobbed reading the 1st book in this series. Roll number 6, so we're going to be heading around the board again, I think. 5. A community shelf prompt. Okay. Read a book in an ongoing series. For roll number 6. Why are we not done yet? We landed on community shelf, and all of my community shelf cards for the Bookoplathon were magical readathon prompts so that I can cross over, and the prompt on this one was to read a book in an ongoing series. So for this one I am going to be picking Buffy Volume 2, Once Bitten by Jordie Bellaire. Yeah, so this is a reboot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It is the same story as the TV show with the same characters and the same actors portraying those characters, but set in, I think, is it 2009? 2019 or 2018, but it is absolutely stunning, full of absolutely gorgeous art pages. So if you don't know the story of Buffy in general, it is about this girl who is a vampire slayer, and there is one of these chosen in every generation to fight back against the forces of darkness, and it is kind of a character driven story, mainly about her and her friends and her struggles, but also with monsters and saving the world. I really love this reboot because it ties characters and themes that are only present in the spin-off show Angel, or like much later in the show, right into the beginning of the story, and I really enjoyed that, as well as the modernized portrayal of all of the characters. I have absolutely adored. So this is going in for the prompt, but to be able to read this, I also have to read Angel Volume 1, which is the reboot of the spin-off show Angel. So yeah, I'm just gonna add both of these. This is the one that's fulfilling the prompt, but in reading order, I do need to read Volume 1 first before I can get to Volume 2 of Buffy. Roll number 7. 7. Which is monsters. I can work with that. So for roll number 7, we landed on monsters. Now this fits by my assumptions, but I'm going to assume that something in this series is going to make it fit for this prompt. But for this, I'm going to be reading Heartforger by Rinch Pecco, which is the sequel to The Bone Witch. So this one is a young adult fantasy where we are following T, who is a necromancer. She's a bone witch. She resurrects the dead. Now this to me already just screams monsters. We have a necromancer. We also have some impending doom with some dark forces coming to interfere with the plot. So I'm gonna say that something about this is going to be monstrous, and then if not, witches, supernatural creatures, not technically monsters, but like necromancy does tip onto the dark side of the scale, so we're rolling with it. And please let this be my final roll. Roll number 8. It's not my final roll. We've landed on hype. For roll number 8, we thought it was going to be over, but we rolled another double, and for this one I landed on hyped. Now you all may be starting to sense a theme around here now, because for this one I'm going to be reading A Worthy Opponent by Katie Robert, which is book 3 in the Wicked Villains series. This series is not the most hyped thing in the world, but the whole reason that I started reading it is because I saw people talking about Desperate Measures absolutely everywhere, and reading and continuing on and loving the later books in the series. So we are rolling with it. So book 3 is a Peter Pan retelling. I think it is Hook and Tinkerbell. I don't think Peter's in there, but I could be wrong on that. Regardless, same vein as the other books, kind of like a standalone romance that's within the series, Disney retelling, hella erotic and BDSM. And finally, what I hope is my final roll, because I can't cope anymore, roll number 9 is a 7. And that is a book inspired by myth, lore, legend, or fairy tale. And for roll number 9, I think the maximum rolls I've ever had is 9, but thankfully this is the last one. For roll number 9, we landed on myth, lore, legend, and fairy tale. And for this, I'm going to be reading The Beast by Katie Robert, which is a retelling of the Disney movie Beauty and the Beast, which in turn is a retelling of the French fairy tale La Belle et la Bête, which was inspired by the ancient Greek classic Cupid and Psyche. So I mean, it fits on multiple counts, right? Once again, this is from the Wicked Villains series. This one is book 4, and I think that the plot of this one is that Belle is trying to choose between Gaston and the Beast. A lot of people in my Patreon Discord say that this is their favourite, so I'm excited to see what all the fuss is about, and I'm gonna have a very smutty September. I'm happy about it, and actually these books are saving September, because 9 books is a lot, but these are only like 250 pages each, and I fly through smut. So they were all of my Bookopoly books. I only have one book to add to my TBR that I'm going to be reading that is not going to be Bookoplathon related, and that is of course my Inner Circle Patreon pick for the month. So this is not going to be on my Bookopoly TBR, so I'm hoping it will fulfill a prompt for Magical Readathon, but I still have not pulled some of the behemoths that are in here. I'm terrified. This could throw my entire plans out of the window, and I am so scared because like my reading mojo is here, my energy is channeled into reading, but can I read all of these massive books and everything else and run the readathon? Let's see what we get. I'm so scared. We're gonna get this over with quick. Okay, we're gonna rip off the plaster. I'm just gonna grab something. This one. Are we ready for this? Great sister! Great, oh my god. This could have gone so much worse. This could have gone so, oh right, thank you Bobby, thank you. So I'm not sure if this could have gone much better, but it could have definitely gone much worse. And my Patreon pick for the month of September is Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. I read Red Sister sometime at the beginning of the year, once again one of Bobby's picks for my Patreon jar, and I really enjoyed it. So this is an adult grimdark fantasy where we are following a young girl called Nona Grey who is about to be hanged. Now just before she's hanged, a nun from the convent of the Sisters of Sweet Mercy comes along and saves her from the block and takes her to the convent where she is going to train to be an assassin. Now the first book really went into the training elements. This book is set in a school. Rethinking everything right now, rethinking everything. So it really went into these training school vibes and all of the lessons, and each of the classes have a name. So like the first class is the red class, then when your skill moves to a certain level you join the grey class, and then the holy class, and then the books are named after those classes. I really liked the world building and the tone in here. It has a very similar tone and a similar plot to Nevernight by J. Kristoff, so if you enjoy one you would probably enjoy the other. Very grimdark, very gloomy feeling, and full of assassins fucking shit up. The most interesting thing to me about the first one was that in between each of the sections of the book it had a flash forward to the future where all of the characters are in very different positions than they are at the beginning and the current narrative that we're reading, and I am so intrigued to see where that goes. The only downside of this one is that it took me a while to read the first one because it was kind of dense and slow moving. So I'm hoping this one doesn't slow me down this month, but I'm so excited to be reading it. So thank you once again, Bobby. So now all of those are picked. I'm going to run through my TBR for the Magical Readathon and what book I'm assigning to what prompt. At the minute I have only managed to get 8 of the books that are on my TBR into Magical Readathon prompts, so there are 2 that I cannot fulfill at this time, possibly 3 because one's a maybe. When I read it I'll find out if it goes, but for now this is what we have. So the prompts that I do have books in for, the first one is the Ash Torn Tree. The prompt for this is to read the book at the top of your TBR, which is obviously Morningstar. For the Mists of Solitude you have to read a standalone, and for that I have one standalone on my TBR, which is the Kiss Quotient. This is the one that's a hard maybe because the prompt for Ruin of the Sky is to read a book that has ghosts or a haunted house or something supernatural. So at the moment I have Buffy volume 2 in. I don't know if it has ghosts or a haunted house, but it does definitely have supernatural creatures. I would have preferred to go the ghost route, but this can count as a push. For Tower of Rumination the prompt is 5-star prediction, and for that I will be reading Fool's Fate. For the Aurelium Academy arc the prompt is to read a book set in a school, and for that I have Grey Sister. So at the moment there are 2 prompts unfulfilled in the main quest. The first one is Novice Path Entrance, that is to read a book with a map, and the second is Obsidian Falls, which is to read a thriller or a mystery, but I do still have that mood read option on my TBR that might fill one of those. And then there are 3 further prompts that relate to whether you're from an urban or a rural background, what location of the world you're in, and also your character race. So at the moment I have 3 of those filled. The first one is urban, which is to read a book in a city or a town, and for that I will be reading Learn My Lesson by Katie Robert, because all of these books are set in a fictional city called Carver City. I cannot decide whether I want to be from Dark Meadow or Kerador, but the prompt for Dark Meadow is to read a dark academia, and the prompt for Kerador is to read a book in an ongoing series. So at the moment I think I'm going for ongoing series with Angel volume 1. And the final prompt is for the race, and the race I'm going for is Iltyrian, and the prompt for that is to read a book with a crow on the cover or a book with a red cover. So for this one I'm going to be reading Heartforger by Rin Chapeko, which leaves these 2 that are on my TBR that do not count for the Magical Readathon. But honestly I think I've done really well to only have 2 books and 2 prompts that don't match up. So here finally, after all of that, we have my Bookoplathon and Magical Readathon TBR. She looks like a hefty stack, but the bulk of it is really this book, but also this one's kind of chunky. We do still have a mood read to add. Thinking of that though, I could, if I wanted to, put Angel volume 1 in as the mood read just so that it's actually on my TBR. And so the total pages for this month is like 3,650 minus the mood read. So I'm gonna say it's gonna end up somewhere around 4,000. So we're looking at 115 pages a day plus that mood read. So I'm just gonna call it like 140, 150 and yeet myself into oblivion. minus the kiss quotient. But there you have it. That is my TBR for Bookoplathon and the magical readathon. If you are participating, let me know if the rolls were in your favour, or was the board as awful to you as it was for me? Like, I truly do not deserve this treatment. And of course, as usual, also let me know if you have read any of the books on my TBR and what you guys thought of them, if you're excited for me to read them, if you want my thoughts on them, let me know all of the things. But aside from that, guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you will go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.